The South African Council for Educators, or SACE, claim that they are yet to use the sexual offenders register that help them to do the necessary vetting of teachers, background checks of who the person is that they're bringing into a school and whether or not they do have criminal records. Now, the organisation says the register has neither been updated or made accessible, and that the responsibility to do this falls within the ambit of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. Joining us now is John Jeffrey. He's the Deputy Minister for the Department of Justice. Deputy Minister, it's good to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Leanne. Thanks for having me.
Yesterday, we had SACE in studio and basically telling us that the sexual offenders register is not usable, it is not available to them. What is going on?
Look, the Sexual Offences Register came into effect at the end of June in 2009. It is, let me just sort of put one point. The register is for people who have committed crimes against children or mentally disabled people, sexual offences. Sexual offences is sort of a bit broader than just having sex with them. It's also things like grooming. So it's people who have been convicted of those matters that are recorded. Names are being recorded. There's some 28,978 names on the register. So it is being updated. There is a verification process going on because it was found that there were possibly some names on the register that shouldn't be there. They were convicted of other things. So if you're convicted of a rape of an adult, your name would not be on the register. The purpose of the register is to provide vetting, screening for people who are going to be working with children or with mentally disabled people.
Yeah.
So that process is going on. Obviously, you can't claim somebody is on the register and they shouldn't be there. They could then sue the state. But I think the main issue is we need to sit down with SACE and work out the issues rather than a public spat in the media.
Yeah, but indeed, you're right. But unfortunately, this public spat involves me and my children and everybody else that's watching. So if we can just talk about the necessities and then you guys behind the scenes can discuss what you need to. But I think it's important we know what's going on. This was, I mean, if we look at Section 47, I beg your pardon, of the criminal law, the sexual offences and related matter, it's stipulated there that no teacher could be allowed into our schools without being vetted against this bill, this register, this sexual offences register, which is not usable in 2018. This is a long time. So within these years, we've been allowing people into the schools to teach that have not been vetted against this sexual register. Why? Offenders register. What's the problem?
Well, as I said, the current problem is that it has been discovered, and it was picked up by the Auditor General, that some of the names on the register shouldn't be there. So there's a process going on at the moment which will be completed shortly to verify all those names.
Okay.
The difficulty with identifying people who should be on the register is that the Sexual Offences Act is quite specific. As I said, people who are convicted of crimes against children or people with mental disabilities.
How did their names get there? Deputy Minister, sorry if I may interrupt. How did their names get onto the register?
The 28,000 that are there.
Well,
they
no,
were supplied by
those that you're saying are holding up the register, that their names should not be there, but they are on the register.
Look, the names are supplied by the police, the court registers, the Department of Correctional Services. The problem is that somebody's name may be sent through because they've been convicted of rape, but it may not be the rape of a child. And if it's not the rape of a child, then in terms of the law, their name shouldn't be on the register.
So they would still be allowed to teach in schools. Just because they haven't raped a child, they would still be allowed to teach.
In terms of the Sexual Offences Act, yes, that is the case. You can have a person convicted of rape teaching a child as long as they didn't rape a child. It's possibly something that we should look at amending. When the Sexual Offences Act was passed in, I think it was 2007, I think it was decided to narrow the register to just those categories. I think it was sort of breaking new ground at the time, but maybe we need to reevaluate that.
Maybe, Deputy Minister, if I may say, I don't think maybe you should reevaluate that. I think it should be reevaluated, and I'm sure as a minister working within the defence, I mean, rape in this country is ridiculous, and it actually doesn't matter the age. Whether or not you're a child or an adult and you're raping, how can you be allowed into schools? How can you be there to predate, whether it be on teachers, students? I mean, these people could be put into universities, and let's consider university students adults as well, and they go about raping them. How is this allowed? I mean, this register should be used in its current form.
Well, look, point taken, but the Act was passed with a full public participatory process. As I said, I think it was breaking new ground at the time, and I don't recall any sort of pushes for a wider application of all sexual offences to be put on the register.
Yeah. You know, what worries me is that had the public not brought this up, had this not been brought up, and I do say this by one of the opposition parties, the DA are bringing this up and really fighting for it, nothing would be spoken about. Why? Why does it have to be taken to a point like this where something as logical as this should be implemented, particularly in a country where 5 out of 8 children are abused?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's not something that's been covered up. The problem with the accuracy of all the names was something picked up by the Auditor General in an audit. So that has been disclosed, as are the Auditor General's reports. But yeah, I mean, it's something that does need to be addressed urgently.
Deputy Minister, there's also what SACE were telling us is that the system is manual and that it takes forever. In a day and age of computers and technology, how is it possible that something like this is not much more easily usable and not just a manual thing that has to go through and makes it even more difficult for them to use?
Look, my understanding is that it is electronic. So a lot of what SACE has said, is not factually correct. And SACE have not even tried to access the register. They've not sent any names, as far as I've been informed, to the Department of Justice of teachers that they wanted vetted. So that's why I'm saying let's not get into a tit-for-tat. Let's look at fixing the problem.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, this isn't a tit-for-tat, but this is an urgent, and I think only pressure from the outside will make you change something and do something. I mean, surely, Deputy Minister, if I may get personal with you, I mean, how would you feel knowing that somebody who has raped, who has been convicted of rape, whether it be a child or not, is teaching your child? Would this not worry you, or your grandchild? Would this not worry you?
Yeah, obviously, but as I said, the law, when the law was passed, restricting it to, I mean, there's also a balancing issue, unfortunately or fortunately, and that's the rights of the individuals involved versus the general society. But when the Act was passed, it wasn't an issue making it broader to all people convicted of sexual offences. As far as I recall, there was general consensus on restricting it to people who had were convicted of sexual offences against children and against mentally disabled people, because they were people who are going to be working with children or mentally disabled people. So you're raising it as a big issue, and I think it is something that we need to look at, but it wasn't then.
Yeah. Okay, Deputy Minister, I'm not sure we're getting anywhere.
And it was also at the time breaking new ground. But yes, we must respond to the concerns, and I hear your great concern over the issue.
Deputy Minister, I'm not making it a big issue. It is a big issue. It is a big worry. It is an issue. It is happening every day in our schools. It is happening every week. We are reporting on our children being prowled by these sexual predators, and unfortunately the department is not doing anything about it. Yes, new ground was broken in 2007. We're in 2018 now, and nothing is being done. And I know that we're not getting anywhere. But
I don't think that's fair. As I said, there are 28,000 or nearly 29,000 names on the register.
But the register can't be used. It cannot be used because the names shouldn't be
are
there.
being recorded. Then there was this problem discovered. So that is now people are working urgently on sorting that out.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Deputy Minister. Thanks very, very much for joining us here
Leanne.
on the programme. All right. That's our Deputy Minister in the Department of Justice, talking to us about the status of the country's sex offenders register and why after 11 years the register is still not in use. Well, we've got the answer as to why it isn't, because there are names of people that have raped, but because they are not children, it means they can still be teachers in our schools. Even though they have committed rape, that's not a problem, but the rape was not on a child, so it's fine for them to teach. I have my opinions. I think you can see what my opinion is, but it's not fair on me to put for my opinions to judge you. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of what's just been revealed here on Morning Live by our Deputy Minister? Write to us at Morning Live SABC. That's where you can get hold of us. It's 7 o'clock.